Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be taking a look at another PortalCraft deck. This one fairly different, of course, because it is a more puppet orientated, destruction orientated deck with Prince of Cocytus as some extra fodder for both late game and mid game, where of course his Excel effect actually is played fairly often in this kind of variant, which is quite a bit of fun. So we're going to get right into it and check it out. So first up, we're up against Dragon. I've been seeing less and less Dragon lately, but it is still an extremely prominent deck. Heartless Battles, really useless at this point. Joe Destruction, also pretty useless in the opener. This is a little bit better. Entity is not great in the early game against Dragon, but it is nice to have since we do only have one of it. And this is not going great. We really needed something decent off that draw and really didn't get anything. So all we can really do now is hope for a really decent hand. Dragon Cleaver Roy, probably looking for ramp, since of course they already have one ramp on board. And that was a pretty nice draw. Scion of Desire, going to do a nice job of healing and destroying. Luckily destroys the Dragon Sword, which does force them to use another one from hand. So they're not going to get quite as much advantage out of that hand, which is good. Disdainful Rend, that one kind of hurt though. Not what I wanted to see. I would have preferred they traded two followers. But at least we have our Destruction on point. And I also played the Amulet out just because by the time I get Destruction out, it's going to be pretty pointless. So I kind of threw it out in advance, just to make sure that I wouldn't have to worry about it later on. Plus, considering how much they're ramping, the odds of them getting to, say, Eyes next turn is really high, and I don't want to take 6 damage if I don't have to. So now we can go pretty much all in on this Hamlin, set up a couple of puppets, make sure our Destruction in white should be playable next turn. Provided this Alterplane Arbiter doesn't become an issue. Definitely an interesting card, Alterplane Arbiter. It's been played a lot more in Dragon now, and definitely a card I want to look into giving a good go. So Loco Puppet, not really the best thing to play, but reasonable enough. Does mean we can't go for white this turn, but I'll settle for it. And there is the Poseidon play. A little earlier than I'd expect. And of course, the perfect cards for them to get. Okay, Loco's Teddy Bear with the Evo. So we want to wipe out as much of this as we kind of can. Which looks like we're going to have an okay match against. We should be able to take out all of the Odin. It's not going to be super effective, but it's going to do the job. And of course, it's going to make our Destruction in white playable, so I'll settle for that. Zero cross Destruction in white. Now we've only got to worry about Destruction in black and making that usable. Which, since we did end up with a puppet, provided we're not going to die, we would be okay, but obviously they conceded pretty much immediately on that. I mean, it's not uncommon for Dragon to concede in those sort of situations when it's quite difficult to deal with the Destructions, and if they didn't have something like a big hitter in their hand, it's really not a huge surprise. So Substitution, Destructive Reframe, and Flower Doll. Not really great, but we did end up getting our Omen in our opener, and against Blood, that's kind of what you need, especially going second. So now it's just going to be a matter of getting whatever we can, and this is a perfect draw, the Inspired Inventor. Focusing on the Miraculous Invention, so I can take advantage of Destruction. Since Destruction will deal 2 damage off the Miraculous Invention, compared to, of course, the 1, which isn't quite as good for this situation. So Vera kind of just getting left up since there's no real other option. And now we have the perfect way to remove both of these. Substitution puppet. Which leaves a pretty nice empty board to use Omen of Destruction on next turn. Pretty much regardless of what they do. So I really couldn't ask for a much better line of play now. Of course, it does mean that we've got to focus now on generating as many kind of puppets as we can and getting white and that down as early as possible before they could potentially wipe us out. But it does look like they're focusing on healing. And they haven't gone for much self-damage, which is definitely not good as a blood player. You want that self-damage to take full advantage of. Can't really afford to play Entity, because I can't really lose the destruction in white. It's a 50-50 risk there. But it is nice to know I have it. So I don't really have a good way to deal with this now. Victoria will do the job, but it's definitely going to cost us. But on the bright side, Destruction in white becomes reasonably playable in the next couple of turns, so not the worst situation to be put in. And we can go for just one little bit of damage there. Another demon play with the Sapphire. They're definitely trying to draw their deck out at this point. And 7 of Lust, so now they're finally going for some self-damage. If I'm right, they're only at about 6-ish. So they're not super high on that self-damage count. And I'm going to be able to make Destruction in black playable already, so why not? And if they do decide to destroy my junk, I can actually use Joy of Destruction and potentially clear something with 4 health, which is really handy. There's the bat, and yep, 6 damage. Not too threatening. So I did make that a little preemptively. I probably should have hit face first. Got them down to 14, but since we are going for Destruction in black, it really doesn't make a big difference. And we can go for Entity, meaning any kind of Dark Feast bat from now on is basically useless. And if in any case they had a way to, of course, destroy our amulet, we'd just go for Prince of Cocytus and end them. So really no line of play from here that could be an advantage, and now that we can go for Lloyd, there's literally nothing that Blood could do that would be a big threat. So I found this deck a reasonable amount better than the last Portal deck we covered, mainly because it is of course Omen Destruction focused with Cocytus as a top end, just to kind of round out the deck, to give it some extra kind of push, especially if Omen Destruction gets destroyed, you have something to fall back on, which is exactly what this deck needs. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.